Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast, where trauma survivors become healthy thrivers. Each month, we'll feature a theme in the trauma recovery and empowerment field. To promote your recovery, healing, and learning how to build dreams, here's your host, Karen Robinson, transformational coach and therapist.
If you have suffered from emotional abuse of any kind, then your story is my story too. My name is Gina, and I know how it feels to be betrayed by people who are supposed to love you. I know the emotional pain of feeling utterly alone in the world, unable to feel safe with others. Embracing self-love changed my life and my relationship struggles. Self-love can do the same for you. Please join me on a path of healing through self-love. My story is your story too.
Welcome to the Heal, Thrive, Dream podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. Coach Gina
Coviello
is an emotional abuse survivor. For 50 plus years, she was a people pleaser and a self-sacrificer, and she was extremely unhappy. After hitting her emotional rock bottom, she discovered the secret to life is to love yourself first. Now she is a powerful advocate and teacher of self-love practices. Thank you, Gina, for being a guest today.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Karen.
And for the listeners who are wondering if there's a different voice for her last name, yes, I saw the mystery of how to not butcher people's names, and that's for them to say it. And that way I can feel good about the rest of the podcast, not worry about people's names.
We don't want you to feel bad about a pronunciation of a name. Absolutely not.
But it's Coviello, right?
Yep. Yeah, perfect. I know it's not an easy name, so yes.
Is it an Italian name?
It is Italian. Yeah, my dad was a first generation American. From his parents came from Italy. Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so background for the audience, I met Gina through online entrepreneurship, doing coaching sessions. We have a few friends and coaches in common. I believe Katarina Rando, Tracy Root. Also, you're a polka dot, so we have that in common. But we spent time together as roommates during a retreat by Tracy Root, and we had a lovely time. She was just so sweet and thoughtful, very kind roommate. So,
Well, you were also super sweet and just so easy to get along with. And I enjoyed because it gave us a little bit of extra one-on-one time, which was really nice to get to know each other. Yeah.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And also, Gina blessed Heal, Thrive, Dream with sponsoring our last summit. And so you're going to see her ad at the beginning of the podcast and towards the end as well. My team is going to put that in there. And so if you ever want to work with someone that's truly focused on what it means to be self-loving, Gina is your person. But Gina, before we talk about what you offer, the people you work with, can you tell us a little bit more about the emotional abuse? Like, was that from a former partner? Was that from a parent, grandparent? What are you comfortable sharing with us?
Yeah, it was kind of from all of the above. Yeah, and I'm totally comfortable sharing this. So it started, I think, very shortly after I was born. There was one particular person in the household. We had 3 generations in the household. My Italian grandparents lived with us. One of them was a very fearful individual. One of my parents was not in a good, happy place. And one of my siblings was not in a good, happy place. And so it happened from each generation in the household that, their internal unhappiness ended up being dumped onto me. I was the youngest member of the family. And so I had a lot of emotional abuse at home. And then I'm also really, really fair-skinned. And I got called, Ghost and Casper and all kinds of things outside of the home. And so I really grew up with not a very good sense of, who I am and what love looks like. And I made some, poor relationship choices. I would say that my marriage also had a certain level of emotional abuse. It was all emotional abuse in my case, no physical or otherwise, just emotional. But I didn't know how to set boundaries with people. I only knew what emotional abuse looked like and felt like. And unfortunately, because it was familiar to me, I knew how to survive in that environment, which I think happens for a lot of people who are in a similar situation. We end up going with what is familiar, not because we like it, but because we know how to cope and survive in that environment. And it's sometimes when we're introduced to someone who's very loving to us, we don't know how to, what is this? It's great, but I don't know how to behave here. So until I was 54, I had all kinds of, relationships in my life that involved people who were not good to me. So friends, family, spouse, all of it, because I didn't know how to advocate for myself. So I have to say I contributed to it, unfortunately. I wasn't aware that I was contributing to, but I was part of the problem. Yeah.
Yeah, we call that subconscious programming.
Exactly.
We're trying to resolve, like, we're trying to resolve that conflict that we had from childhood, and it just gets so messy. And it's like, well, why am I keep doing this? But what was it at, you said 54? Like, what
Yeah.
happened that you were like, enough is enough?
Yeah. So part of it was this whole 54 years of just people being really horrible to me. And then that year, I had a couple, I had sort of started, I had gotten divorced. I was starting to kind of move in a healthier direction. And then four separate things happened in one year that really, I was just like, what is going on? I had a family member fire me. I was an interior designer, and their mother had died, and I was working. They were getting ready to sell the house, and I was an interior designer helping them out with that. And out of the blue, they just fired me with no reason. And I had to kind of find out, well, what's going on here? There was just boom, you're out. I had another family member, an immediate family member, who really betrayed me in a really rough way. That was the big one. But I had a couple of other smaller, I was not dating someone, I was interested in dating someone, and they ghosted me. And so there was just a couple of things that happened within 1 year, but this immediate family member, that incident really just broke my heart. And I hit that point of, people suck. I can't take this anymore. I want off the planet. That's, I didn't actually harm myself in any way, but I was in that place of, I want out of here and I don't ever want to come back.
Yeah, you went to a really dark place.
I did.
Because I imagine it felt pretty hopeless after 54 years. Like, where are the good people? They don't exist. Not knowing
Exactly.
that we're attracting those familiar patterns.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, how did you stumble upon this? Wait a minute, I need to love myself.
Yeah, it was in that, in hitting rock bottom. And I have to say, hitting rock bottom actually ended up being a gift, because I did get to that point where I said, I can't do this anymore. Something in my life needs to change. And one of the things was, as I said, I was an interior designer at the time. And what I discovered was that while I love interior design and I love doing it for me, I did not enjoy designing for other people. And I thought, I'm not serving them well. And it wasn't making me happy. So that was one place where I started, was like, I need to do something else. This is not a career that's going to, be good for me. But I sat there and said, well, what do I want to do? And I had no idea what I wanted to do, because I didn't know who I was. And so I started sort of saying, well, okay, I need to know, who am I? What am I interested in doing? Because I'm 54 and I have no career option. So I actually took a year off from working. I was financially able to do that. And I started just paying attention to me. But I started traveling by myself, which was weird at first, but I ended up loving it. And just little by little, paying attention to me kind of turned things around for me. And I started feeling better, and I was being adventurous, and I let a lot of these unhealthy relationships go. So it was a process, but I came to realize that I deserved better than how people were treating me. And that was really, what prompted me to start taking care of me. So I'm like, no, I don't want to be treated this way anymore. That person's out of my life. So there was clarity that came to me through hitting rock bottom. And so, as I say, it was a gift because I started learning how to set boundaries. I started saying what I want and need is important. So I really started taking good care of me, and I didn't know how to do that before. So I needed that in my life, right? And so hitting rock bottom made me realize there is more to life. It can be a lot better, and that I have control over who is in my life and, how my life looks, and having that control, that's power. Not in a selfish, greedy, arrogant way, but just that I get to decide how I'm treated. So anyway, it was a lot of really great things came, but there was a process to my getting to that point.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear that. And I love that you mentioned travel because that's one of my things. I love
Yeah.
traveling. But
Yeah.
traveling also like during like my divorce and my young daughter and I were really hurting like during that separation. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, oh, we're going to China and we toured all over China. And it
Sure.
was just so healing, to
Yeah.
be experiencing different culture, different food, different people, different types of entertainment. It was really beautiful for me.
Yeah. I think
Okay.
that we actually learn a lot about ourselves when we travel, when we're out of our own environment, right? You can really explore different sides of yourself. I think travel's a great way to get in touch with different parts of yourself and see what you enjoy. Yeah, that's good. But you went to a foreign country. That's not an easy language for an American. That's really brave.
Oh, well, I was already living in Japan with her. I was working in Japan at the time. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Yeah.
lovely. I didn't remember. You
Yeah.
probably told me that. I didn't remember. Okay.
Oh, well, we probably need 8 days together to really get to know each other fully.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Japan was part of my adventure to try to get away from toxic, unhealthy people.
Sure.
And it didn't work at first. My partner came with us, then he didn't end up staying.
Okay.
So it
Yeah.
did work and it gave me a good break from not being too close to anyone that was toxic. And that's how I got to heal.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so I hear you that you really decided that you had to prioritize yourself and prioritize what your needs were.
Yeah.
What are some of the things other than travel that you tried that really helped you tap into really getting to know Gina? Like, were there self-help books? Was there a therapist? Was there a coach? Did you change your nutrition? What did you do?
Right. So there was a bunch of different stuff. And I didn't know that what I was doing was self-love. I was just, oh, this sounds great. That sounds great. I did do, I don't remember what her name is. She's from Australia and she has a little program about manifesting. And, one of the things that she talked about was keeping your home clean or organized, right? And so I did this thing. So I'll keep this one short. My bathroom was this room in my house where I really learned some things about myself. I was not a slob, but I was not super clean either. And my bathroom was, it was in decent shape, but it was not super clean. So one weekend when my kids were away, I walked into my bathroom and I was like, you know what? I really need to clean because there's the grime on the shower door. And I was always nitpicking at myself about the shower door for months. You're not cleaning your shower door. So this one weekend, my kids were away and I cleaned my bathroom, floor to ceiling. The next morning, I woke up and I walked in and there was just this light feeling when I
I
walked into my
love that
bathroom,
feeling.
right? And I was like, what was that about? Like, I really literally felt lighter on my feet. And later in the day, I realized that the reason wasn't because my bathroom was clean that I felt good. It was because my subconscious had nothing negative to say to me. Right. And so one of the things that I learned about myself is that I'm really, really negative. I every 2 to 3 minutes, my subconscious was chiming in and saying something unkind to me. And so, just like, so then I decided I am keeping my bathroom spotlessly clean now so that it can't nitpick at me, right? And I started keeping my car really clean. And for a while, maybe not now, my kitchen sink is right here. My kitchen really clean for a while. And I learned that when my environment is really clean, I feel loved. And it's loved by me, right? It's not by someone else, it was by me. So that was like one of the things, and that was a surprise to me. But there were a bunch of different things. Yeah, I read some, some books, and I did some self-help things, but it was really paying attention to what makes me happy and understanding why, right? Like the bathroom. It was that my subconscious was quiet. It wasn't about the bathroom being clean. It was about, oh, I can train my subconscious to not be so negative to me all the time, by if I adapt what I'm doing, it can stop, not beating me up. Sorry, that's not a good way to say it. It could stop, nitpicking at me all the time.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is beating you up to some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is the manifestation coach, was her name Lonnie Dawson?
That does not ring a bell. No,
Okay.
I don't remember what her,
I thought
no.
maybe I knew. Okay.
Yeah, that
It's
was,
all good.
yeah.
Yeah. So, but the point is you did seek help, but you also paid attention to what lit you up, like what felt nurturing to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just want to be clear, like I didn't have a personal coach. It was, like one of these courses that you purchase the videos for, that kind. It was
Yeah.
so it was still self-help, but yeah.
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 So I want to go back to something you said earlier, and it's not nitpicking you. It's something I noticed that we all do who've had emotional abuse,
Hmm.
myself included, is sometimes we say it's just emotional abuse. We have it in our head that physical abuse or sexual abuse is worse. And I don't think we need a debate which one is worse. I just know from all the years of being a therapist that emotional abuse is no joke.
Yeah.
Like people do take their lives because of emotional abuse. I had a suicide attempt myself, and a lot of kids who are bullied in school also have
Yeah.
suicide attempts or complete suicide. So
Yeah.
it's really not a small thing. It's very wounding, right?
Very. I totally agree.
And
Right.
and where do you think you are in your recovery from that? Like, do you feel like there's a whole ton of healing left to do? Do you feel like you're halfway? Like, how would you describe where you're at?
I have had tremendous healing. And of course, we're never done healing, right? It is a lifelong thing. But no,
Right.
I have had huge growth, and it's been about 3 years. And even now, what was I just, because I was thinking about this earlier today, that I'm like, oh, I still see growth, right? Like there's still things happening. So I'm going to kind of briefly, one of my biggest fears in life was public speaking in any form, right? Even like this. And you can see I'm still a little red. So I'm not fully healed. But what I notice now, because I think a lot of people, if you hear your voice recorded, you're like, ooh, that's what I sound like, right? Or if you see yourself on video, you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to see myself. I am at the point where I actually kind of like watching myself now, right? Which I think is kind of
Oh,
fun. Yeah. I was just recording a short introductory video. I'm going to be speaking at a group in a couple of months, and they want to get to know who I am. So I did like a 5-minute video, and then I watched it after to make sure it was suitable to send on. And I was like, oh, I kind of like her, and I got a little kick out of
aw,
myself. So I thought, wow, that is really,
evidence.
it is that, because most people are conscientious about pictures or video of themselves, and I'm so far along that I kind of like watching myself. So, and like
I love
more
that.
recently, yeah, isn't that? And it's kind of a cute, like, oh, good. She likes to see, I'm like,
Mm,
I like her.
I really love that.
Yeah,
And so I know like the one of the reasons why we're so hard on ourselves is that critic, that inner voice, that negative self-talk or stinking thinking is another way we can call it.
yeah,
I know it started because of the people around you having negative things to say. So I know you're working on shushing that critic, and you gave an examples, like you sort of do the opposite of what it's mouthing off at, because then you're taking its power away. But what are
Right.
some of the really loving, kind things that you say to yourself?
Oh gosh, I tell myself all kinds of things. And I even have, you probably have one of these as well. We have one of our people we know in common, Katerina Rando has this, I have massive value, right? And so I tell myself things all the time like that. Like I'm an incredible human being. I'm an amazing friend. I'm gosh, all kinds of I'm really kind and loving, all those kind of good things. But one of the things I do is I acknowledge to myself the progress that I'm making, right? I'm like, good job, Gina. You and I are in I'm going to call it a class together. We had class yesterday and
Right.
I asked a question. You had talked about something in your life and I, raised my Zoom hand and asked a question. That 2 years ago would have been a super scary thing for me I would have never raised my hand. And there were 10 of us on the call. And afterward, I did do that. Good job, Gina. Like I recognize I was not the least bit nervous about asking the question. So I will acknowledge when I do something that I used to be afraid of doing too, right? I think acknowledgement, even if I'm doing something and I don't do it as well as I would like to, I will still tell myself, you know what? You did the best you could. Good job for putting yourself out there. I'm proud of you. I look in the mirror into my eyes and say, I love you, Gina. You're an amazing person. Oh, I'm gonna get all emotional now. But no, I totally talk to myself in the mirror. I,
I love it. I
I
love it.
totally talk to myself and I give myself pep talks, all the time. Yeah.
We did a mirror exercise on Katerina's last retreat. We did a drumming cardio session with Jennifer, the LinkedIn expert.
Oh yeah, I know her.
And, and one of the things she said at the end is, "You're a really big deal." So we're on our mirrors like, "I'm a really big deal." It was
Right?
really fun.
Yeah.
Well, and what talking about the class that we were in, I'm really glad you said that because that's actually something I did too. I was like, I shared a vulnerable thing that happened to me recently, and I didn't have to,
Right.
but I took it as an opportunity to combat shame. And, I told a story, and afterwards I did the very same like you just like, good job for putting yourself out there. You didn't have to
Yeah,
do that.
you
Yeah,
do.
and that's new for me too, really.
Awesome. Good job, Karen. You're amazing.
Yay!
And and
Gina,
because
you're a really big deal.
I am a big deal, so are you. No, I'm really glad you shared that story because that was an important story for the rest of us in the class to be aware of something, right? So you educated us on something. And yeah, you were very, very brave because I totally get that could potentially have been an embarrassing thing to admit had happened to you. Um, but no, it was really good for those of us, for the rest of us to learn from it. And I was really proud and grateful to you for sharing that. So, sometimes when we're vulnerable, it is a big deal to share when you're vulnerable. You're admitting something and we're all human and nobody is perfect and we all make mistakes, but we feel like we're supposed to be perfect, and
Or smarter. Like, I would never fall for that. Yeah.
right. No,
So,
no,
listeners, go
that was
ahead.
something that I've had concerns about. I'm like, what if that ever happened? Because I've like, how do you know? Anyway, I don't want to go into that here, but yeah, no, it was a
Yeah.
very helpful for the rest of us to hear about what happened to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So, listeners, I will make a separate video and put it on YouTube and Facebook about what we're talking about. We're not going to do it now, but it's just an example of if we really are serious about our healing and our growth, we've got to do some hard stuff.
Yes. The how I got over my fear of public speaking was to speak publicly, right? And facing that fear changed my life. I wouldn't be a coach if I didn't take that one opportunity, my first opportunity to speak publicly. If I didn't do that, I don't know what I would be doing now. It changed my life in a really positive, beautiful way. So sometimes approaching our fears in a healthy way, obviously in a safe and healthy way, can be extremely rewarding too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I know we're already probably over time and we just have too much to say. Okay, so but I do wanna focus on what you do with your clients. If you could share what you're doing, what your offers are coming up, because we want to promote those, and also where people can find you if they want to get to know a little more about you.
Right. Okay. So I am a life coach and I emphasize and self-love. I think that self-love is the answer to pretty much not only your own personal problems, but I think the world problems would also be greatly resolved if everybody on the planet were in a state of healthy self-love. I think that self-love is the foundation that everyone needs in order to be able to have the life of their dreams. And we all deserve to be happy, safe, feeling abundant and feeling loved in the world. And the way you bring those things into your life is by having a healthy relationship with yourself first. So I help people, reprogram, because we all have subconscious beliefs, usually from our childhood, that have evolved some limiting self-beliefs about ourselves. And we think we're not smart enough, or we think what we have to say is not valuable. Those things are not true. So I help people rewrite their subconscious and to see and believe the beautiful human being that they are, and to know that they are worthy of having healthy relationships and having abundance in their life and feeling safe and secure. So it's coaching, and coaching is a partnership. I am sort of your accountability partner. We come up with a plan. What is it you want to accomplish? And we figure out how to get you there. And we talk through things that are going on in your life and how you feel about yourself. And over time, and this is not something that self-love does not happen overnight. It takes time and effort. And how long it takes is really up to you, how much effort you are willing to put in. And it is uncomfortable work. I'm just going to be honest, it's not easy work, but very, very, very rewarding. If you're willing to put in the time and effort, it's extremely rewarding. So what do I have coming up? I do a free workshop, 1 hour online workshop every month. And the links to that are on my website. So that's www.coachginacoviello.com. And we rotate through my upcoming workshops. I do individual coaching, and I'm working on maybe trying some group coaching next year, some group support, I should say. Those are my big offers.
Awesome, Gina.
Yeah.
I know I'm taking a course or a workshop coming up. Can you remind me of the name and the purpose of that course I
Yeah,
signed up for?
that's next week from when we're filming this. That is called Developing Unshakable Self-Love. And
I
this
love
is
that
just,
title.
yeah, I know. And I have to say, Simone Biles, the Olympic gymnast, was sort of my inspiration. How she handled her Olympics was it in Tokyo, I think, or whenever it was that she pulled herself out because of her
Right.
own physical and mental safety. And then she came back 4 years stronger and better than ever. And I thought that's how she handled that was so self-loving. It was not greedy and selfish. It was from a place of, I deserve to be safe and healthy and not put myself at risk, because my country and teammates expect me to perform. Anyway, so it is about coming to a place where you have so much love for yourself that even outside world pressures that like an Olympian would face were not enough to convince her to continue, in that particular Olympics, because her mental and physical health was at risk. And that's a lot of pressure to say no, on her. The world is watching her. And she said, no, I can't do this. And it takes a lot of internal strength and courage to be able to put your own needs first. And so that's sort of like unshakable self-love. And I want to help people get to that point. So it's a 3-hour workshop that we're doing, and we're going to take a look at some of our past emotional wounds and how to cultivate self-love in our own lives today.
Oh, well, I'm excited about it for sure. And I love that you talked about Simone as an example, because that is a really beautiful example of self-love. I don't think she realized at the time how modeling that would be something that women and maybe some men talk about. So
Yeah,
that was really powerful.
I think it's super important as an example that, you know what, no, it's okay to put yourself first, right? When your mental and physical safety is on the, in the moment, you need to be concerned for your own safety and all of that. Yeah, no, I think it was a beautiful example, and I'm glad people are talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Gina, you are definitely beautiful as well. Can you tell us your website one more time so people who were driving maybe didn't catch it? Also, listeners, you can look in the show notes when you click on the episode, and it will be there as well. But say it one more time, Gina.
Yeah, because I know my last name is going to be hard to spell too. So it's coachginacoviello.com. And I've got a blog on there. And as I said, my upcoming workshops are posted there. You can register. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gina, for being a guest with us today.
That was my pleasure, Karen. Thank you for having me. It was an honor to talk with you and hopefully to inspire your audience to pursue, that's the word I'm looking for, to pursue self-love in their lives.
I know you did. Thank you.
Thank you. If you have suffered from emotional abuse of any kind, then your story is my story too. My name is Gina Coviello, and I know how it feels to be betrayed by people who are supposed to love you. I know the emotional pain of feeling utterly alone in the world, unable to feel safe with others. Embracing self-love changed my life and my relationship struggles. Self-love can do the same for you. Please join me on a path of healing through self-love. My story is your story too.
Thank you for listening in today. Please join us next week, same day and time. Also, I would love for you to check out my website, healthrivedream.com.